Good morning, students. I welcome you for the biology class. Today, in this particular video, we'll be studying about fluid connective tissue. The fluid connective tissue links the different parts of the body and maintains continuity in the body. It includes blood and lymph. Blood is a fluid connective tissue. The blood plasma does not contain protein fibers, but they contain cells called blood corpuscles or blood cells. These blood corpuscles or cells are RBC, that is red blood corpuscles or erythrocytes, white blood corpuscles, that is WBC or leukocytes, platelets. RBC and WBC are living, while plasma, platelets are non-living. The blood is fluid connective tissue, which is composed of 55% of plasma and 45%, which is formed by the elements including WBC, RBC, and platelets. Since these living cells are suspended in plasma, blood is not known as only the fluid, it is called fluid connective tissue. So, coming to components of blood. There are many cellular components in the composition of blood. When the sample of blood is spun in a centrifuge machine, they separate into following constituents. What are they? It is plasma, so it is 55% of the total blood, and a puffy coat where you can see leukocytes and platelets, so which is less than 1% of the total blood. And the next layer, what you see is erythrocytes, so that is 45%. Coming to plasma, you can see plasma over here. So, plasma, it's a liquid state of blood, can be contributed to plasma as it makes around approximately 55% of the blood. It is pale yellow in color, and when separated, it consisting of salts, nutrients, water, enzymes. Blood plasma also contains important proteins and other components which is necessary for the overall health. Hence, blood plasma transfusions are given to patients with the liver failure and life threatening injuries. Plasma composition is around 90% is water and 6% is of proteins. Coming to RBC, red blood cells or erythrocytes. So these are the cells without a nucleus. So these are anucleated and the shape is biconcave. These cells are red in color due to the presence of hemoglobin, and which is iron containing complex protein which helps in transportation of respiratory gases. So RBC's number ranges from around 4 million to 6 million per cubic millimeter. They form around 40 to 45% of its volume, so they are generated from the bone marrow at an astonishing rate of around 4 to 5 billion cells per hour. The lifespan of these cells is around 120 days. The RBCs are destroyed in an organ called spleen, which is called the graveyard of RBC. Next, WBC. It's also called leukocytes. They account for 1% of the total volume of the blood, but they have a very important role to play. The cells are colorless as they do not have hemoglobin. They are almost constantly generated in the bone marrow. The number ranges from around 4,500 to 11,000 per cubic millimeter. They are nucleated, they are irregular, amoeboid, phagocytic cells. Their main function is to fight against the foreign pathogens like bacteria, virus, fungi, which enters our body. Coming to white blood cells. So there are five different types of cells: lymphocytes, monocytes, neutrophils, asynophils, basophils. Before that, we have to know the granulated and agranulated. So when you take leukocytes, so some are agranulated and some are granulated. You can see the diagram over here. So what do you mean by granulated? So granulocytes. So these are leukocytes with a granule-like structure that contain enzymes capable of digesting microbes. So they are further classified. You can see asynophils, basophils, and neutrophils. Agranulocytes. They are the type of WBC again. They doesn't have distinct granules in their cytoplasm. So you can see the difference over here. So cytoplasm is very much granulated. Here it is, there is no such granule sort of appearance. Hence, they form an important part of the body immune system. So it is further classified into monocytes and lymphocytes. Coming to asynophils. So asynophils, so they make around 0.1 to 6% of our blood. So nucleus with two lobes. You can see two lobes. It is bilobed. Cytoplasm is filled with approximately 200 large granules containing enzymes and proteins with different functions. And this stains protein which is pink in color. You can see the pink color, and the nucleus will be purple color. It's because of hematoxylin stains. And acyanophils are formed exclusively in the bone marrow. They are implicated in numerous inflammatory processes like allergic responses. Whenever we do have allergic, so they respond to that. So especially for allergic disorders and parasitic infections. Coming to basophils. So this makes around less than 1% of your circulating WBC. A healthy ranges from around 0 to 5 basophils in each microliters of blood. So it's the largest type of granulocytes which can be stained with the basic dye called methylene blue. So these are responsible for inflammatory reactions during immune response. So they also produce a compounds which is coordinating to immune response, that is histamine and serotonin, that induce inflammations, and heparin which is produced to prevent blood clotting. So these are the main functions of basophils. Coming to neutrophils. So again, it's a type of WBC which protects us from infection among other functions. So their main function is for protection. They're approximately around 40% to 60% of WBC in our body. It's the first cell which arises on the scene when we experience a bacterial infection. So you can see the nucleus is multilobed, which contains 3 to 5 lobes connected by slender strands. The cytoplasm may look so transparent, but because of fine granules, so and they can be stained with a pale lilac color. So it looks so pale lilac when it is being stained. And next, coming to monocytes. So monocytes, it's the largest type again in the WBC and much more longer lived. They have kidney shaped nucleus. So they have a kidney shaped nucleus, and they are typically agranulated and also possess abundant cytoplasm. They are phagocytic in nature and destroys bacteria virus by phagocytosis. Coming to lymphocytes. So lymphocytes are much more common in the lymphatic system than in blood. Lymphocytes are distinguished by having a deep staining nucleus that may be eccentric in position and a relatively a smaller amount of cytoplasm, which includes T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes. So T lymphocytes, these are produced in bone marrow, but they get matured in thymus gland. B lymphocytes, they are produced in bone marrow and they get matured in bone marrow. Coming to platelets, also called thrombocytes. So these are tiny disc-shaped cells which regulate the blood flow when any part of the body is damaged, thereby aiding in the fast recovery through clotting of blood. So it ranges around 1 lakh 50,000 to 4 lakh per cubic millimeter. So these are the cell fragments that are produced from the specialized cells of the bone marrow. Their role is very significant. They are responsible for controlling of bleeding, or we'll say in the clotting of blood. So you can see here, so these are RBC cells, the red ones, and the white ones, you can see these are WBC, and the brown stuff, whatever you see, the light brown, orange color, so these are platelets. Coming to the function of blood. So it helps in transporting oxygen, nutrients to the lungs and tissues, forming blood clots to prevent excess blood loss, carrying cells and the antibodies that fight infections, bringing waste products to the kidney and liver, which filter and clean the blood, which regulates the body temperature. So these are the functions of blood. Thank you, students. In the next video, we'll study about the lymphatic system. Until then, thank you. Have a nice day.